Greetings, and welcome to another episode of Her Voice Podcast with the Inspire Her Network. It is truly an honor to be before you again. We hope that this podcast finds you well and in good spirits. And so I am Coach Ivy again with the Inspire Network, and we are really excited about this topic. Remember, we told you we were coming back with a part 2, and so we are going to really dive in a little deeper in this episode. And so I am your co-host here again, Coach Ivy. And as I tell everyone, especially those that are close and nearby, don't judge me, judge your cousin. And so as we begin, let's throw it over to our beautiful co-host, starting with Deona.
Hey, Coach. Hello, everyone. I am Foushee, and yes, I need prayer in my life every day.
This is Melonie, and yes, he is not through with me yet.
Hey, this is LaTasha, your HR guru.
And I'm Crystal, and in this episode, we will discuss Love Like Lust, the Complexities of Her, Part 2. Let's start out by defining lust.
Now, lust, that definition for when it comes to the Webster Dictionary is very strong sexual desire. But if we want to talk about biblical, it's still a desire, but it's a strong craving or desire, often of a sexual nature.
So Mel, you got to get it to me one more time. So can I get Webster's definition one more time?
Webster says a very strong sexual desire.
Now, Mel, why you had to say it like that though? Y'all caught that?
Like the key word is strong in all of this.
Let's see. All right, we getting started already. I love it. Okay, so ultimately, the definition I think is very interesting, as it does refer to, if I'm not mistaken, Melonie, you said that Webster and the biblical version really alluded to the sexual desire. Am I correct about that? That was the common theme.
Mm-hmm. And both where the common theme was sexual desire. Yes.
Okay, that's interesting because Crystal, I don't know if you saw this as well or noticed this, but it's also related to power, money, and I know Davida was talking to us a little bit about that too, in terms of how that may be more leaning towards greed than lust. But I was looking into it and I saw that it could also be a strong desire, if you will, for those things as well. So Crystal, tell us a little bit about what you notice when it comes to lust, that it's not always tied to necessarily sexual desires.
Exactly. I feel like anytime it's not necessarily pertaining to sexual desire, that's when we get into, say, for one, gluttony. Our desire, our strong desire to eat or overeat. And when it comes to power, some people have that strong desire to have a certain amount of power or money, and authority. So it really just depends on what it is, what type of desire you have. And it is not, of course, from a biblical perspective that you're wanting these things. It's a fleshly desire. So I feel that they could be a type of lust. Everything doesn't have to be sexual.
I like that. Okay. That's a good breakdown. Good explanation on that. So LaTasha, look, and LaTasha is on the scene. Look, LaTasha's coming from behind the scenes and she got something to say. So LaTasha, what are your thoughts about this? What have you seen according to this?
Well, I mean, for me, the deep root of lust at the end of the day is that it's emptiness. It's a false emotion. So when you look at lust, it's more of a physical connection versus that emotional connection.
Okay. I like that.
I like that.
Yeah, isn't that good, Davida?
Because when I thought about it, I thought about the differences between lust and love. And when I see lust, I see something fleeting, something that's short term, something that isn't meant to stay. Versus love, it's something that endures, something that lasts, something that is strong, get you through, you're through, right? So that's my so I was thinking the same thing with you, along the lines with you, Tasha.
Yeah, because lust is conditional, love is unconditional.
There you go. There is.
And did I hear temporary in there, Melonie?
Yeah. And I like the way Davida put in there, it endures. Lust, you can fall out of lust real quick.
Can't you?
Endure. It don't last long. You can be in lust today and this minute and the next minute, who that person is again or what it is again. I really feel like I love the way she's like, it endures. And then when LaTasha came in with that condition versus unconditional.
Absolutely.
That hit home too.
Absolutely.
That lust, lust normally starts with the eye. So it got to be something appealing to it versus
that part.
It don't matter what you look like. It's unconditional. No matter what, I'm going to love you. I ain't going to always love after you, but I'm going to love you.
I like that.
And Melonie, a lot of people fall in lust and fall in love. There's a difference. Yeah. Some people marry the people they fall in lust with, and then come along that a year, 2 years, and that lust, that eye starts changing.
Come on.
Then you realize it was not love.
Or I realize how loud you sleep.
Not that part.
I mean, come on. Or
wait a minute, Ivy. Wait a minute.
I realize how you got a crooked too, cause see, I'm real bad about the teeth.
Me too.
Wait a minute, y'all know he not through with me, right?
Listen, so I mess around
with lust.
Listen,
he said he snore. See, with lust, you didn't hear him snore. You was just be there for that moment and keep it moving.
Exactly.
That's why when you find out he snores, you're like, wait a minute. I didn't sign up for that.
You see, that's where the love's supposed to come in, and you're supposed
and that's
to
our point, Melonie.
Turn over and whatever else, so you ain't got to hear the snoring. You gonna endure that, So.
That's the point we making, Crystal. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to give the people some signs to know that if just in case you thought it was love, this is when you find out it was lust the whole time.
Because think about it.
Look like a 6-pack no more.
But when you think about lust, though, lust is more like it's a thrill ride, right? It's passionate, it's exciting, it's like a roller coaster ride. But when you look at love, it's compassionate, it's comforting, it's like that warm, fuzzy hug. When I think about love and lust, that's what I get from it.
Oh, it's a thrill. It's a high.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. It's like a high you just looking for in that moment, and once it's over with, everything attached to it goes away. It's very temporary, but you got to reignite that flame to get that feeling, to get that high.
Yeah, got to get it. And one thing about a good high though, it may go away for the moment, but then I got to hit it again. Right?
You got to hit it again. And guess what? You're gonna search for that same high every time.
Right.
And you don't get it, you're gonna fall away from it.
Crystal, and I was getting ready to say, and if it is anywhere near different than what it was that first time, Melonie, that's when you see the shift. You can begin to see that shift because you want the same exact high. You want the same experience that you had that first time, because you done spent how many days lusting after this thing before you actually got it. You know what I'm saying? So, it can't disappoint.
Yeah, it got to be better or either the same. At least it can't be nothing less, though.
And then I think sometimes with our lusting, it's more of a fantasy, or you basically daydreaming of what you really want in life. Like it's not reality. It's not reality. It's a fantasy. It's a dream. Never reality. It's like you put in your mind what this perfect situation is, a perfect person, and that's what you lusting after. It's not actually reality.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that, and I'm even gonna spice it up a little bit and just say, like, when you realize how lustful you are, you really realize it after the fact, when you realize that it was your mental, your whole thought process, what you felt about it, that it was never the emotions or the love you had for the person or thing that you were attached to. It was the thrill of it, which is the lustful part of it. And then once that little thrill or that high go away, it is never the same. You be like, I was doing this for what? Oh, okay, nah, that ain't it.
It's like it's on TikTok, but I watched it on YouTube. Where the girl was talking about who did she marry. She didn't know who this guy was that she married. And I was telling somebody, I don't think it was necessarily she didn't know who that was. She had fantasized the life she wanted. So she was lusting at the life that he wasn't really providing. He had that smoke screen, and once the smoke had cleared, she woke up. Like, wait a minute, I don't want to be here no more. This is crazy. Wow. He is a narcissist. He's a liar. But she had lusted after a lifestyle, not necessarily that person. And I noticed that happens a lot. Where we'll start lusting after a situation, not realizing that, hey, we're in La La Land right now. This ain't the person you've met. In your mind, it's my turn to be married. It's my turn to have it all. It's my turn. But in truth, that's not what you're getting.
And Mel, I want to hone in on how something you and Crystal said. I want to bring attention to the fact that Crystal said that person or thing, as we keep that in front of us as well. And then Melonie, you even tie lust to a situation or a lifestyle. And I want to say this, Crystal, if I can just morph yours just a little bit. When she lusted after the lifestyle, things that the man could provide, I would like to say, Mel, not so much that she realized who he was, but better yet, when she realized that he cannot fulfill that, sustain that, he lose his job or whatever the case may be, right? As we go back to the conditions that LaTasha talked about earlier. So I like how you even brought up the fact that it can be a situation or a lifestyle that we desire and lust for. Woo. Come on, y'all. We talking.
Well, now that you say it like that, it's two different things. Lust seems more of a thought, and love seems more of an action.
You doing something, Mel? She doing something different. LaTasha, let's get LaTasha in real quick before we jump on Crystal bandwagon. See, Crystal doing something different. Go ahead, LaTasha.
Well, I just want to ask, why they're even talking about it like in this moment. Can you even lust like in the moment? You guys talk about a lifestyle or a situation, but do you think it's something that you could do in that moment? Like, oh, I see this person, but what if I could have them right now? Or let's say this person is like, oh, they look good, but they could be possibly married and I can't have them. Like, do you think that's something that we could do like in that moment? Like how does that happen? Or like, how do we handle that in that moment?
See, to answer your question, it goes back to Melonie saying it starts through the eye. Yes, and I want to say this. Yeah, it can be, because somebody said temporary. It can be in the moment, and then it goes away. So we're gonna talk about strategies here in a second, and then it goes away. How do you see it? How do you acknowledge it? And then strategies to dismiss it, right? So before we go there, so put a pin in that, because we got to get on that. So everybody be thinking about their strategies that we want to share, and also maybe signs. But before we go there, let's get back to Crystal. Crystal, can you repeat your statement for us one more time?
I said it's like lust is like a thought, because it's something in our mind, a high. It's not, a lot of times it's not even a physical being, whereas with love, it's action. Is you don't just love something in a moment, you love it all the time. Your love for something will have you wanting to be a better person. Your love of wanting a better lifestyle will have you going out here working a job and doing things to save and prepare for whatever it is that you want. But if you lusting after something, you ain't gonna do but so much with it, because you just doing whatever it is to get that little high within that short period. But love is more of an action.
I agree with you, Crystal, because when when I think what I get from you too is like lust is more about that superficial, right?
Yes.
That material possession.
Yes.
When we look at that love, it's more about the deeper qualities, that character, personality, the value of it. But lust is more about that superficial side of the house of it.
Well, when I'll be honest, y'all know he ain't through me yet. So I have my moment, right? Well, I know I'm lusted. Like, I don't even like light-skinned men, but I lust
Oh my
after
goodness.
I lust after Trevor Noah, right? And I was like, I wonder what Jesus would think, right? So I actually was when I was looking up the biblical lust sins, I saw Titus 2. It is Titus 2 and 12. And in 12 it says, teaching us that denying ungodly and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world. And I felt some type of way. I felt very convicted because in this present world, I'll be lusting after Trevor Noah, and I know that's not right. It'd be my thoughts.
Okay.
My thoughts, y'all.
No, it's the light skin for me with that part. How that got anything to do with it, Melonie?
Right.
Why?
I'm just saying, I don't like them. They just not my thing. I just don't. But I'm saying.
Well, you fantasize, so it's lust. That's what it is. That's lust because you fantasize about it.
I cannot act on these fantasies. Trevor Noah is in work right now. And I ain't his type. Look.
But just because you can't act on it doesn't mean it's not lust. It's still the fantasy and the daydreaming of it all. The act, once you act, hello somebody, Davida, once you act, now that becomes something different. Talk to me
exactly.
now. Okay, all right. So now you got two strikes. I'm just saying.
But you see what I'm saying? The process.
I wanted to go ahead and throw that out there as well. Thank you for bringing that scripture in, Melonie. So with me, I go back to 1 John 2:16. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes. We've been talking about eyes this whole time. And the pride of life is not from the Father, but it is from the world. So yes, these are our worldly desires. These are our worldly things that we see with our eyes that we want. But of course, Melonie, but they are not of the spirit. They are not of the world. I also want to bring to you guys forefront Colossians 3 and 5. So we have to fight and we have to put to death therefore what is earthly in us, and including sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and covetousness, which is also idolatry. So we know that we are not supposed to be idolizing Trevor Noah or idolizing even men with abs, or idolizing fancy cars, or idolizing 8 million, $100 million homes. All those things look real pleasing to the eye.
Wow.
But that's not what we as Christians are supposed to be doing. That's not of the spirit. So I also wanted to touch into what you were saying earlier, Melonie and Crystal, about that fantasy. So a lot of it, especially, I'm gonna just get real deep with you guys when it comes to women. We give our partners potential. We look at potential of people and we fall in love with that potential of the person. So that, to me, that is also part of that fantasy. And you put that fantasy, put that daydream up. You're like, you know what? I know I'm a good woman. I know I'm good. I know I'm his good thing, So I'm gonna bring all these good attributes to him, and he's going to start praying more. He's going to start, doing more things with the kids. I'm gonna drop this hint there, and he's gonna pick all of my breadcrumbs up, and he's just gonna be the perfect picture that I put in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And we fall in love with that.
Yes.
And then you realize quickly that you can't change a man's heart. You can't change your partner's heart. That's up to God. God can only do that. So that lust that we thought, that vision that we put in our head, that potential, that fantasy,
yep.
we find out it was not real love.
Yeah. Wow.
leave it up to Davita to bring me back to reality. I appreciate you.
Yeah, honey.
Yes, honest her them thoughts, Melonie.
Snatched all our edges. I tell you that, and stepped on some toes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Davita, you telling me that I can't even drive through neighborhoods and look at the houses that I be wanting? I mean,
I'm not saying you can't do it. All I'm saying is that you don't do things that I won't say incriminate, but you don't do things that make it seem like that's the only thing that you're desiring. You know what I mean?
You don't put it above God, basically.
Exactly.
Like he's always the head of everything. Everything comes through him and underneath him. Once it gets to the point of you pushing God to the side and saying, I need this house more than I need,
and I'm gonna do whatever. I'm gonna do whatever I can to get it
and all that. Yeah, that's not of God, and that's not a loving place.
Okay.
That's a fleshly desire.
Ooh, and Crystal, ain't nobody asked you to co-sign with Davita.
Thank you, God. I'm right there with you. Because I consult God every time I think about trying.
Oh my goodness.
One day. Can I meet him one day?
That's like asking God to take the wheel and then you be like, okay, God, I got through the bump so I can take it back. No.
Yes. Exactly, Davita. You want to go talk to God.
I got through the bad part of the neighborhood. Can I take it back?
Hey, better yet, y'all, that's asking God permission. You know what I'm saying?
To do the wrong thing.
To do the wrong thing.
I know, right?
You know what? That's the Holy Spirit convicting you, because God said, didn't I tell you about having them thoughts? Let me get up in here and make her feel some kind of way and get back to me. God is a jealous God now, Melonie.
Oh, Lord.
We just have to give up on that. I'm going to give up on that fantasy.
Yeah, just give up on that one.
But I want to kind of look into different ways we can like avoid having those lustful thoughts and lustful behaviors though. Let's all just remember that as long as you have a fantasy, you can't dwell into, like God says, you can't be lukewarm. You can't fantasize about things and still love him, right? So even it even blocks you, like y'all, I'm married and it even blocks you when you're trying to have a sustaining relationship. You over here fantasizing, you got this fantasy up, but you got a real person right here in front of you that you can't even really love because you got a fantasy. You can't really know or love this person right next to you because your fantasy over here. So a quick way to get rid of that fantasy is to actually communicate. Actually have a deep conversation with the person, letting them know, hey, this is what makes me happy. This is what I love to do. This is what, I love dancing. My husband knows I love that. If he see me dancing in the kitchen, oh, we got a good day today, So he's like, she is happy today. But and he'll come over there and dance with me because he knows that's something I love to do. And so it's the same thing with, anything that we are love and passionate about. As long as we have that fantasy going, you can't have the love too. You can't do it both ways. So that's the first great strategy is to really communicate, have deep conversations with your partners or people that you want to have that relationship with.
That's good. And I will jump on the single wagon as we just talked about being in a relationship, being in a covenant, and being married. From a single standpoint, I will say one way to avoid really getting caught up in lust is to be mindful of the things that you participate in and the things that you watch. We always talk about guarding our eye gates and our ear gates, right? And so it's just really, really that much more important that you don't even entertain certain things because they trigger, I believe it was Crystal earlier that talked about our thoughts. Those things immediately trigger thoughts and then they take root, right? LaTasha talked earlier about how sometimes it's temporary and it's just for the moment, but it also can take root too. And what'll happen is it may leave you for a little bit, but because it took root, it's going to come back 2 weeks from now. You're going to go back there. You're going to go back to daydreaming. You'll find yourself at work drifting off and daydreaming. So for me, it's just important that I don't even allow things to take root. So again, just be mindful of the things that you participate in, places you go, places you used to go, you can't go no more. Things you used to watch, so just conversations you can't necessarily participate in if you're talking about certain things, because again, those seeds are being planted. So that's one of my strategies that's been helpful for me.
Your point, Ivy, I was going to back you up with spirit or biblical, with Bible verse. 1 Peter 5:8, be sober minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. So where you, like you were saying, where those places that you used to go, where you used to have bad company, bad thoughts, lustful thoughts, get away, run, actually. And because those same demons could still crawl up on you and try to devour you again.
Absolutely. And devour is a good word.
And I'm going to add to you, Ivy, I have done the things that you have done, but I'm also add accountability, because if you do find yourself in those places where you do have those lustful thoughts, feelings, and vice versa, you have to go back to getting on your knees, praying, repenting, asking God to help you with those. If you need help, call on him and ask him, God, I need help. Help me with this. Help me with that. So hold yourself accountable. So I'm going to add that.
Absolutely. And what I also heard you say is repentance. And I heard another strategy, which was to pray. Seek that help.
And I was going to jump on LaTasha bandwagon with the accountability part and say also practice self-love. Because most of the time, some of that lust that we're looking for is we want to be accepted. We want to be loved. So we sometimes confuse lust with love because we don't self-love. So I practice self-love, practice self-care.
Yes.
Do those things that make you a better person, that therefore you don't go out looking for what you already have within.
Yes, and to go time with what you're saying, Melonie, a lot of people, they partake in lustful behaviors because they're trying to fill a void. It's a thought, it's a fantasy, it's not realistic. So for one, we got to learn to identify things that take you to that lustful state. And once you start seeing the patterns, identify what you need to do to not get there, or learn when to turn it off. When it gets to the point to where it's more so lust, it's okay to have a thought. But once that thought keeps penetrating and going further, and then you fantasizing on all these other things, you got to learn when it first start happening, you already know what's going on before it even happened. You can put an end to it. So you definitely have to learn to identify that behavior and things that cause that behavior so that you can avoid that until you are stronger and you know that you're not going to allow it to go there. All this is about growth. You got to learn to be able to figure out what you need to do to get better and to grow so we won't go back there.
Absolutely. And if I can sum it up, I will say this, that ultimately that's the mission, is for us to grow stronger in him. And what will begin to happen, let me go ahead and forewarn you, as you begin to notice, and when you are aware, what will happen is then you will be tried and tested in those areas. And so we go back to even LaTasha's strategies to say that's when you really got to bend a knee and pray for that help and ask that God strengthen you in that place. So again, it's about you taking notice. We've all experienced it at some point, right? As we even talked about how it's even deeper than sexual, just the fantasizing of things or situations or lifestyles. So we've all been there. But at the end of the day, you have to start somewhere. And you will find more and more you'll be convicted. And as you're convicted, that's just God's redirection and correction. It will get better. You will be better and you'll do better. And now we will have her final thoughts by our very own Deona Adams.
Lust is one of the tools the enemy uses to usher people, specifically God's people, into sinning against God, most times we don't even realize how, why, or even when something begins to affect us in a negative way. There's such a subtlety in the way the enemy deals with us that allows him to manipulate our thoughts, leading us into compromising actions. Lust speaks to a fixation and a meditation on whatever it is that we're desiring. To desire something or to think of something is not necessarily sinful. However, to lust after, to fixate our minds and our thoughts on a thing continually can certainly be sinful and is dangerous for us as believers to meditate on negative things. Our focus and attention gives life to those things, making us more likely to fail in our efforts to deny our flesh. And to LaTasha's point, I agree that lust develops over time. We don't usually lust after something upon our first introduction to whatever that thing is. You know, if we see someone that we're attracted to, that attraction is just that. We like what we see. We have a preference, and that person just so happens to meet the criterion of our preference. And that's not necessarily lust in the moment. However, as we continue to fixate our minds on this person and we begin to imagine and fantasize about experiencing different things with this person, over time, that initial attraction and desire develops into lust. And this sounds very sexual in context, and this example is, but we can lust after many things. We can lust after fame, money, status, success. I mean, we have people that are like lusting after likes on Facebook. So I just believe that we have to ask ourselves, what is it that we really desire? We have to get very clear on that. Nothing should supersede our desire to be in right standing with God. We have to consider the areas of our lives that we have compromised in, or those areas that we may compromise in to get ahead. We have to think about the things that we may idolize. What are we valuing over our relationship with God? What are we valuing over our responsibility to be obedient to the things God has called us to? What are we saying yes to at the sacrifice of saying no to God? All these things matter. These seemingly small decisions can carve a path to destruction and ultimately death as it separates us from God. And I want to be clear, this is not to say that all imaginative processes are lustful. We can be thankful for what we have and still desire more. I personally believe a lot of our desires come from God. He just does not want us to value anything over Him, His will, or His purpose for our lives.
Awesome. Listen, thank you all so much for tuning in. We hope that you follow our station so that you won't miss yet another episode. If you are interested in learning more about the Her community, please visit us on our website at www.inspirehernetwork.org. It will also be in the description below this episode. Thank you so much for being with us as we close up this conversation, this robust conversation as it pertains to love, like, and lust, the complexities of her.